Hey, I'm Nick with Remote Audio, and I'm here to demonstrate assembly of our right angle TA connector. Okay, I'll start by taking this connector apart, and your connector comes supplied with a wrench, which you can later use to change the angle of your connector if you wish to. So usually what I do is I want to hold this in between my thumb and my index finger, and facing the front of the connector, I want to turn my wrench clockwise to loosen it. Usually it takes a couple turns to get it loose enough. Eventually it should all just kind of fall apart. Now is a good chance to kind of take note of the order of your parts, just so you can assemble it properly. Make sure you take note of the direction of these two pieces, because if you put, especially this one, if you put it in backwards, nothing's going to fit together properly. So first what I'm going to do, I'll show you how to assemble it without a cable, and then next I'll show you how to assemble it with a cable soldered to the connector. You usually put these pieces together first, and it should all fit into the slots so you know it's all the right direction. Should fit right in there. And the teeth from this housing and the teeth from that collar should line up flush, and that's kind of how you know you've got it in there properly. So then you want to take the right angle housing and just kind of gently place it in there until you feel the threads in there. And so what I want to do now is get into my thumb and finger position again, and this is going to help me keep the connector straight so that you're not twisting the insert around while you try to tighten the housing. So now I've got my connector, I've got my orientation, which right now is at 12 o'clock, but I can change it if I want to 9 o'clock or wherever, but we'll do this demonstration for 12 o'clock. So what I want to do is hold that in place like that, and then my wrench will go counterclockwise. Now if you have a lot of struggle turning the wrench, usually that means that your housing is in there crooked. So sometimes you just kind of have to start over and get your angle right, make sure everything's lined up good. And I'm kind of checking to make sure my connector is still the right orientation. So now I know that that's locked into place, and I can give it a couple more turns to really tighten it down. So we've got that, and then from there, that tab lines up with that, and then your boot screws on the back. Alright, so now I'm going to show you the assembly again, but this time with the cable mounted, with the cable soldered to the connector. So same thing, you just want to make sure all your parts are in order and you got your wrench ready to go. On this cable we've got a Canar L2E5, and I've stripped it 5/8 of an inch. If your strip is too short, it's going to be kind of hard to get the correct angle within the housing. So I've got my connector soldered, then I want to load up my collars here. Again, make sure these are going the correct direction. And that'll just kind of sit loosely for now. Usually I kind of bend the cable down a little bit to kind of get it started, just so it'll feed through this right angle housing properly. And you'll see it, you kind of have to push it through. And instead of pulling it like this, you're going to want to push it through, otherwise it catches on the edge of the housing. So I'll get it up to about that point. Then I'll kind of make sure, like I said, I'm going to do this at 12 o'clock. Some people like them at 9 o'clock, so you could twist it like that, but for now I'm just going to show you the straight up and down noon orientation. Alright, so from here I want to hold my collars in place. So make sure your notches are lined up. And then I want to take my housing. You want to get your teeth lined up as flush as possible. It'll kind of click into place very slightly. So I'm kind of still holding that with these fingers and my thumb, and then I'll sort of feed the cable through just that extra little bit. Now I want to kind of start my thread, but you can kind of move this around, and you want to make sure you're not feeding it in crooked. So again, I'll get my thumb out here in the front to kind of hold this in place. And I'll get my wrench and I'll go counterclockwise to tighten the housing. And it'll kind of resist you at first, so what you want to do is make sure that you're holding everything in place, because if you just let it go, it's going to twist around in there and you're going to have some problems. So again, I'm checking that I've got my thread good and straight. Constantly holding this and making sure that the connector insert is moving forward. So now's a good chance to make sure that my threads are lined up properly. So before I do my last couple of turns to tighten it all the way, I want to just give it a hand test and make sure that this isn't going to twist around, because if it's not in there straight, some of this could get twisted around, it can mess up your orientation. So from here, I know that it's in place properly, and I'll give it the last couple of good turns to tighten it all the way. From there, slide this piece on, line up the tabs. Tighten the strain relief down. Now with the boot, with a thicker cable like this, what I'll have to do is rip out the rubber boot so that I have more room to work with, so that can slide over the cable freely. And if you want, we like to put a piece of shrink over where I pulled that rubber boot off. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to change the orientation of your connector. So we're going to go from a 12 o'clock to a 9 o'clock orientation. Looking at it from the back of the connector, we got 12 and then 9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this about 3 turns, still holding it in place with my thumb just so it doesn't fall apart. And so you've got it just loose enough. You should be able to turn it and everything will turn together. So I've got my 9 o'clock angle. Okay, so from here I've got my angle where I want it, and again I'll hold it in place with my thumb. I'll get my wrench counterclockwise to tighten it. Couple turns, and sometimes it'll give a little bit and you just kind of twist it back to where you needed it. You'll feel it click into place. So again, I've got that tightened in and it's not going anywhere. One little twist to tighten it all the way. And that completes the orientation change.